And good morning to one and all. I'm not in my home office at the moment. I'm in our town library. My youngest daughter is studying for university this week. So there's a few things I want to talk about this week. Yet again, we see a person who comes to Australia either on a tourist student visa or a work visa. They have children here while they're in Australia and they have a disability. Their student visa or their work visa runs out and they're being deported. A few months ago, I did a story of a gentleman who was here in Australia on a work visa. He lost his job through COVID, was no longer employed in his position. So they revoked his work visa. So him and his family had to leave Australia. His youngest child was born in Australia. She had a intellectual disability. The other children were studying. So they want to stay here in Australia. And I said at the time, they've had 20 years to decide to become Australian residents or citizens. They didn't do it. They become complacent and lazy. Now that they no longer have that work visa, they were being deported and they were upset because they thought it was unfair. So the parents would have to leave Australia. There are other children without a disability were staying in Australia because they had a student visa. So the parents and the youngest child were being forced to leave. And my statements at the time is they had 20 years to work this out. Surely in 20 years they could have done that. But they didn't. And they left it to the last minute and it didn't work out the way they wanted. Now we have another person in the same situation. A lady moved to Australia on a student visa. Within a year, she had a child in Australia with a disability. Now she's been forced to go back to her country of origin, and she's fighting it. And I'll just get Chris to play that clip so you can all see what I'm talking about. Just play that clip and we'll just have a quick watch and I'll just have a quick chat afterwards.
15 years, Kamisha's called Australia home. The single mum raised a disabled daughter who's an Australian citizen. She thought she'd done everything right, but now she's facing deportation.
It's echoing.
At home with her mum, 13-year-old Sabiana is happy and safe.
Yeah. Oh, you want to hold this one? Make sure you chew your food, okay? I love you. But I will not be able to survive without my daughter. No. And she won't be able to do it either because, like, we've always been together and she knows mummy.
For all of her challenges, Sabi knows how to give a great hug.
Cuddles.
I got you.
I got you. Hey, we got you. She's only probably got about 15 words. She needs assistance with everything pretty much, from like having a shower, feeding, walking, dressing up.
Kamisha hates to think what will happen to her daughter if the single mum is kicked out of the country when her visa expires in a few weeks.
It's a scary thought, isn't it?
Very scary. Yeah. And, the clock is ticking.
You can't even imagine.
No.
Come June 13, right?
No. I think the closer it gets, the more scared I get.
If Kamisha is deported back to Mauritius, she'll face an impossible choice. Leave her daughter in Australia so she can continue getting the healthcare she needs, or take Sabiana with her but risk the teenager's life.
I know the difference between the medical treatment here and what we can get back home. And honestly, if you say to me, take Sabiana back home, it will be like someone saying to me, okay, take her and let her die. And I can't do that.
Will she survive a plane ride?
My daughter cannot fly. She cannot travel by plane, and that's also been confirmed by her doctors because of her condition.
Kamisha says she's tried every avenue. Is leaving your daughter here an option?
Who with?
There's no one.
No, her dad is not involved in her care. Put her in someone else's care. How fair is that? You can't do that to my kid. You can't separate a mother from her child.
Kamisha moved to Australia on a student visa 15 years ago. Sabiana was born 12 months later with a rare genetic condition, Wolff-Hirschhorn syndrome, causing severe developmental delay.
You know, we weren't expecting her to leave until the age of 2. She's 13. She's a beautiful girl.
The smallest of steps are huge milestones.
Yeah, good girl. What do you say? Thank you. Good girl. I love you. We've almost lost her 2 times because she stopped breathing during the seizures. I really owe that to the Australian government and the medical experts here. Like, you know, everyone's fought so hard for her to still be alive today.
When Kamisha's student visa renewal was rejected in 2018, she was granted ministerial intervention, a medical treatment visa that expired last month. But the Mauritian national unknowingly missed her chance to transfer to a permanent visa before her daughter became an Australian citizen. Her only option left, a bridging visa that expires on June 13.
I am in a situation where Australia doesn't really have a visa for me to stay here on a permanent basis to be able to look after my daughter.
Her only option towards permanent residency is a ministerial intervention. And I think there's definitely unique and exceptional circumstances in this case.
Immigration lawyer Adam Burns.
The ministerial intervention isn't granted for this applicant. The mother is liable to be put in immigration detention and removed from Australia once she becomes unlawful, once the bridging visa expires. That would be absolutely tragic. The focus here needs to be on the child.
The minister knows there's no visa for me, and you know, he's the only one who's got the power to do something here, and I really expect him to do something and be fair with this situation.
So, a final plea to Immigration Minister Andrew Giles.
I'm still going to be working. I'm still going to be paying my taxes. I'll still, like, you know, respect Australian values and, you know, contribute where I can.
What does Sabiana deserve here?
She deserves to stay here. She's an Australian citizen. I will not take no for an answer when it comes to my daughter's life, no.
Well, in a good sign, immigration officials are now helping Kamisha with her case, which will be reviewed by Minister Giles.
Okay, so we see there, once again, let me be upfront. I really feel for the daughter. I really do. And I'm glad things worked out for the child. But for the parent, I'm really angry. You've had 10 years, over 10 years to do this. You unknowingly missed your bridging visa. As a parent, you always put your child first. I don't know what's going on in your life for this to happen. And like you said, you're going to continue working and pay your taxes. That's great. But you come out here on a student visa. Are you not supposed to be not working? You know, as a parent, we always put the children first. No matter what happens, the child always comes first. And I'm really glad this time things worked out for that child. But I get angry when I see parents just completely be irresponsible and miss the boat. You know, she unknowingly missed the bridging gap, the gap for the bridging visa. that was me, I'd be checking the mailbox 2 or 3 times a day, ringing up the minister's office. I don't know. I just get angry when I see that because it wastes a lot of time and resources for the government. You should have been doing all this work yourself years ago, a decade ago, when you knew you wanted to stay in Australia. I don't know if the father's Australian. You said the father's not in the picture. Shame on him for that. But, you know, if the father is Australian, then he has responsibilities by law to look after that child, at least financially. But anyway, like I said, I'm happy everything worked out for her, and I think this parent and the parents before, the ones that I was mentioning before this clip, who lost their work visa. They had 20 resident or citizen, and they didn't do it. It's frustrating. It just wastes time and resources, which could be spent better off somewhere else. It's just ridiculous. It's just, I don't know whether it's just laziness or incompetence, but it's a shame. But I'm just glad that everything's worked out with that young girl. She needs all the help she can get. She truly does. And that leads me into the next video. I want you to have a look at, once again, the police force have done a wonderful job. There was a man in Brisbane who was attacked by a Brisbane copper. He was taken to the ground, sprayed, tasered, laying in the pool of his own blood, fractured skull, had to be rushed off to surgery. I mean, what training do these coppers have in interacting with people with disabilities? Do they have any training at all? Now, I've tried to contact the Goulburn Police Academy and I've had no response. And I've contacted the Commissioner's office regarding that issue about training in interacting with people with disabilities. And I've had no response. So I will be chasing this up, but I'll just get you to play that clip, please, Chris. But it's shocking. It really is shocking. I've had a gut full of this stuff. It shouldn't be happening.
Well, that's none of your goddamn business. Now is it?
Tonight we can bring you the shocking police body camera footage of a Queensland constable attacking a disabled man in a violent arrest. The man is thought to be responsible for breaking into cars, but it was a case of mistaken identity.
Lying in a pool of his own blood, begging for assistance.
Oh, please help me.
A man bashed by a Queensland police officer.
Yeah, we've got the ambulance coming, mate.
I'm going to die.
Responding to reports of a prowler breaking into cars, Constable Alastair North pounced on Gavin Milne as he walked along Russell Street in South Brisbane.
You really gonna make me arrest you?
Yeah? Why?
Why,
What's the f***ing problem, bro?
Get back from me.
I'm dead, mate. I'm f***ing disabled, bro.
Get on the ground.
No.
Get on the ground.
God.
This confronting police body cam video, obtained exclusively by 9 News, shows a shocking 15-minute arrest of the wrong man.
You're under arrest for breaking into cars.
I didn't touch anything.
Well, I'm working that out.
Giving evidence in court, the constable said he was responding to reports of a male offender on a push bike wearing a black hoodie and black surgical mask. When cross-examined, though, he accepted Mr. Milne wasn't on a bike and wasn't wearing a hoodie or a surgical mask.
I just was walking from the pub.
That's fine.
I just had a beer. That's all I did was have a beer.
Despite his pleas of innocence, Gavin Milne, who suffers from nerve damage in his leg, is capsicum sprayed, struck in the head multiple times and knocked unconscious. The 55-year-old is then rushed to hospital in need of emergency surgery for a fracture to his skull. Constable North admitting in court that he caused grievous bodily harm to a man he misidentified as a suspect. Gavin Milne was later released by police without charge. In the weeks following, though, complaints of excessive force were made to the Crime and Corruption Commission. not by Gavin himself, but by a concerned citizen. Then, 4 months later, police decided to charge Mr Milne with obstruction.
Constable North, can you tell me how Mr Milne obstructed you that day?
I'm being instructed not to comment on this.
While the CCC investigation found Constable North's actions reasonable and lawful that night, he did tell the court, "I was never struck by him, but I believe there was a lot of threat."
He was left bleeding on the ground, begging for help. Can you still justify that use of force?
My bosses told me not to comment on this matter. It's still before the courts as well.
Is it normal for somebody to require emergency surgery so they don't lose vision after being arrested?
Constable North has now undergone additional operational skills and tactics training, the Queensland Police Service telling 9 News. No disciplinary action was taken in relation to the members involved. The man was charged with obstructing police, and as the matter remains before the Brisbane Magistrates Court, it would be inappropriate to comment further on the matter at this time. A new trial date is set for May 29. Bridget O'Brien, 9 News.
Now look at
One of the ways I make sure my Mac lasts as long.
that Brisbane cop. What a gutless bastard! Yeah, he beat someone to the ground, fractures their skull. What a gutless mongrel dog bastard! He really is a bastard. I just get so angry when I see stuff like this. The police, it's all officer safety. Stuff officer safety. If you didn't want to put yourself in danger, you shouldn't have picked the job. That's like a fireman being trained, certified, then complaining about running into a house that's on fire because it's hot. Ridiculous. Was there any retaliation? Of course there was. Somebody complained, not the victim, someone else from the community complained about the brutality from that gutless coward. And what did they do in response? They charged the victim with a crime after they let him go. After somebody made a complaint. You've got to be kidding. He's been retrained. The bastard should be in jail. Absolutely brutalised that man, and he's been retrained. And he has no comment. He's a gutless mongrel. He really is. How would you feel if that was your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, your son, your daughter? Being beaten to a pulp. Mistaken identity, beaten to a pulp, no accountability, no charges laid against the copper because it was reasonable. You've got to be kidding. Why not just pull a gun out and shoot the poor bugger in the head? Is that reasonable? I just get so angry when I see this. You've got to be kidding. If you and the police force can't handle the pressure, get out of the damn job. Simple as that. And that Brisbane copper, he should be made financially liable for that man's medical fees, for all of his costs. He didn't act within the law, and I can guarantee he didn't act within his own policies and procedures from the Brisbane police. He's a bloody coward. Absolute coward. What training do these people have in interacting with people with disabilities? There was a woman in America last year with dementia. She was she was about 80 pounds, suffering with dementia. She didn't stop when the copper said, so he picked her up, threw her to the ground, dislocated her shoulder, forced her arm behind her back and broke her arm. Handcuffed her, then a female copper come in to help him. A passerby stopped to complain about the brutality. He was threatened, so he left the scene. So they took her to the police station, left her handcuffed in the cell for 6 hours before they realised she had a broken arm and a dislocated shoulder. Are we going down this track in Australia now? Is it all about the officer's safety? What about the safety of the people in the community? People just walking home being bashed because they were mistakenly identified as a potential, an alleged criminal. There's no excuses. He was beaten. He was sprayed and beaten to the ground. And that's not a crime. We're going to end up like America, where there's going to be this huge divide between the police and the community. And it's all going to be about officer safety. We want to go home to our families. Yeah, well, so do your victims. You're cowards. You really are cowards to do that to a man. And that leads me into the next clip. We're going to have a look at the 95-year-old lady in New South Wales who was tasered. You've got to be... I'll save my rage for after the clip. I'll just get you to play that for me, please, Chris. 95 years old.
It's none of your goddamn business. Now is it?
Hi, boys and girls. None here. How you all been? I decided to upload this quick video because I understand and share the community outrage at what has happened to Claire Nolan in Cooma, New South Wales. Police opened fire on her, and they're alleging that there was no other way to restrain the elderly woman who is frail, 5'2" and 40 kilos. This is just crazy. Please watch the video and let me know your thoughts.
Good evening. It's the police response that has incensed the New South Wales town of Cooma and beyond. An elderly woman tasered by police in a nursing home. The 95-year-old was alone and carrying a knife at the time. She's now fighting for life. And senior officers today faced a barrage of questions over the action.
At 80, Claire Noland was flying high.
You did a terrific job. How are you feeling, okay?
Yeah, fine.
Good girl.
The great-grandmother living her dream in front of her 8 children and their children.
Something I've always wanted to do, and I've done it.
Fast forward to today, and the 95-year-old is still fighting for life after being tasered by police in her Cooma nursing home in southern New South Wales.
Even if you didn't know Claire closely, the people would be quite shocked because it's the talk of the town at the moment.
That kind of course of action entirely, well, to me, unheard of, because there's other ways to de-escalate a situation like that.
Police say the widow was holding a serrated steak knife in a small room by herself at 4:15 a.m. on Wednesday when an officer took her down.
At the time she was tasered, she was approaching police, but it is fair to say at a slow pace. She had a walking frame, but she had a knife.
All of 5'2" and 40 kilograms, she fell and hit her head.
It's a bit how you go and how police can't disengage a 95-year-old lady. Like, mate, she had dementia.
So we'll end the clip there. That Claire Nolan's 95 years old, 5'2", 40 kilos. She passed away from her injuries, from a fractured skull. Again, police brutality. Now, the cop has been charged with assault and grievous bodily harm, but it should be charged with manslaughter, at least. How could he not subdue or de-escalate a 95-year-old lady with dementia in a walking frame, moving slowly, even according to the Deputy Commissioner? Moving slowly. You kidding me? What a big, brave man he is. Another gutless coward. What a barn. He should be in jail now. But we all know what's going to happen. He'll get off. He won't serve any time. He may lose his job, but he'll be going home to his family. That's what it's all about. Now, officer safety, going home to your family. Don't worry about killing people. What training do the police have in de-escalation, in dealing with people with dementia or people with disabilities? I sent a YouTube video about 2 weeks ago of a couple who were deaf in America, and having an argument, and he walked away. And a couple walked up behind him yelling out, "Stop, stop, stop." Didn't stop because he couldn't hear him. They tasered him, took him to the ground, wrestled him, handcuffed him, and he's laying there, "I'm deaf, I'm deaf." Is this the way we're going to go down? Is this the track we want to go down? Are we going to follow the American coppers, the American police, of brutalising people, killing people and getting away with it? "95 years old with dementia, using a walking frame." Now, I broke my hip nearly 2 years ago and had a steel rod and a couple of screws put in, and I was using a walking frame. And I'm telling you now, you need 2 hands to use the bloody thing. Even if she had a knife, she still would have been holding onto the walking frame. So how is that justified by tasing her? Did the copper have a body cam on? Are they going to release it? Well, if he did have a body cam on, I can guarantee you they won't release it. Gutless goddamn cowards, and I'm sick of it. It's going to get worse in this country. If we don't pull the coppers in now, we're going to end up like the United States. We really are. That poor lady lost a life, great-grandmother. Useless, bloody, uneducated, untrained police. We should be calling for a complete reform to the way the police are trained in dealing with people with disabilities, people with medical issues, mental health issues, dementia, Parkinson's, whatever. They serve the public. We don't serve them. They don't rule us. We don't have to bend over for them because they're wearing a blue uniform. Let me know what you think in the comments. What you think about all of this. I'm so angry because I can see Australia going down the track that the United States are going down. Like that woman, Australian woman that was shot when she was living in America about 2 years ago. She reported a possible crime behind her house. The police pulled up, she walked out to him. The copper just turned around and shot her. He got charged, but he got off. He was convicted, but he got off. He appealed and got off. Is this the way we want to go in our society? I don't think so. Stuff the police. I have no respect for the police whatsoever. You know, and this what's leading me into the next topic is, you know, people, when you get older, you know, age in itself, is that a disability? As you get older, your mobility decreases, your hearing can decrease, your vision can decrease, Yeah, you can develop dementia. And I think it is. I think age in itself is a disability. It's a long-term impairment. You fall over and someone who's elderly falls over, it takes a long time for them to heal. Now, I personally believe that age in itself is a disability. It's an impairment to your life, to your lifestyle, your mobility, your ability to get back into the community, go out shopping and do things that you normally do. You did when you were younger, in your 20s, 30s and 40s. Should we make the NDIS available to people over 65? I think in some cases we should. I know Pauline Hanson's not going to like it. I've contacted her office several times for an interview and they've declined, which they have every right to. But the reason I wanted to talk to the Senator, Pauline Hanson, were her comments about the NDIS. She made it seem that we're all rolling around a huge vault of money, pit of money, and we're spending it on free holidays and sex workers and crystal wands and free passes to the theme parks. And it's not true. We get funding that we have to use and we have to prove it's related to our disability. It's not just a pit of money that we can use for anything. But let me know in the comments if you think age in itself is a disability. Are there any comments there, Chris? No. Anyone in the chat at all? Okay. I'm still rattled over that Claire Nolan's, that 95-year-old lady. I mean, what the hell are these police thinking? I mean, what a pack of cowards. I have absolutely no respect for the police whatsoever. And look at Daniel Keneally being hauled into court for his alleged crimes. I bet you he's going to get away with it if he did commit them, which I believe he did. I'm not saying he did. It's my belief. My beliefs aren't facts. It's just what I believe. And who's Daniel Keneally's mother? Christina Keneally, former New South Wales Premier, former federal member. Yeah, there's no, she's not pulling the strings, is she? Is she helping out her son? Is she getting into the commissioner's ear, whispering things in her ear? I can't say with certainty it is, but, what Daniel Keneally allegedly done was downgraded to a lesser crime. He hasn't been convicted as yet. It's still going through the court system, but, a man was in jail for 6 weeks for a crime that he didn't commit. That's a fact. And maybe the police should keep the blue uniform with a yellow streak down the back. I just had a gutful, the way people are treated, the elderly, people with disabilities. Not just by the police, but by the government, state and federal, all around Australia. It's all the same. Yeah, anyway. That's probably it for this week. If there's no comments, we might end that there, please, Chris. I'd like to thank everyone for turning up. Please make sure you subscribe to my channel. I need all the help I can get, and also hit that like button too. All right. Thanks everyone for coming, and I'll see you next week. Bye.